area for like a nap.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 17th, and this is the time and place for a special meeting of the Nevada Gaming Control Board. May I ask that you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, has our agenda been posted in accordance with Nevada's open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
All right, let's proceed first with public comment.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters. Anyone wishing to address the board may do so at this time. Comments by each person are limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If board members ask questions of the speaker, the time needed to address those questions will not count against the speaker's 3-minute time period. If speakers have any handouts or written copies of verbal comments to provide for the record, please hand them to the enforcement agent seated to your left in Las Vegas or behind you in Carson City.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Pursuant to state open meeting law, matters brought to the board's attention during public comment cannot be acted upon, but we're happy to hear comments from the public as well as fellow board members during this public comment section. Let's go first to Carson City. Is there anyone wishing to provide public comment this morning? Seeing none, let's go here to Las Vegas. Is there anyone wishing to provide public comment? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, that closes our public comment section. Let's move now to first special agenda item. And if you would please read that into the record, it's item number 2, I believe.
Special item number 2 are the applications of Neo Games SA for registration as a publicly traded corporation, for licensure as sole shareholder of Neo Games Systems Ltd, and for finding of suitability as a limited liability partner and as managing partner of Neo Games US LLP. You also have the applications of Neo Games System Ltd for registration as an intermediary company, for finding of suitability as a limited liability partner of Neo Games US LLP, and for licensure as a manufacturer. It is also the applications of Neo Games US LLP for registration as an intermediary company and for licensure as sole member and manager of Neo Games Solutions LLC. You also have the applications of Neo Games Solutions LLC for licensure as a manufacturer and distributor. It is also the applications of Barak Matalan, Alayu Azur, Aran, Aded Gottfried, John Taylor Jr., Mordecai Malul, Raviv Adler, Renat Belfer, and Gabriel Naftali for finding of suitability and or licensure as an officer, director, beneficial owner, sole manager, key executive, and or controlling beneficial owner as noted on the agenda. Lastly, you have the request to withdraw the application of Lauren Taken for finding of suitability as a director and to withdraw the application of Dan Teplitsky for licensure as a key executive.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. That was a mouthful. Good morning, Mr. Shear.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board Member Watkins, Judge Assad, Madam Secretary, for the record, Scott Shearer of Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, appearing on behalf of the applicants. First of all, I'd like to thank you for scheduling this special meeting. We truly appreciate it. It will be beneficial not only to the company, but also to its primary customer here in Nevada. So we do appreciate it. Secondly, obviously we have a lot of people with us in the audience today. So I'd like to start by introducing each of them and ask each of them just to briefly stand when their name is called. So first we have Barak Matalan, controlling beneficial owner. We have Eliyahu Azur, beneficial owner. Eharan Iran, a director and beneficial owner. Oded Gottfried, who's the chief technology officer. John Taylor, who's the chairman of the board and chairman of the audit committee. Mordecai Malul, who also goes by Moti. You'll see a lot of him today. He's going to provide an affirmative presentation in a moment. He's the chief executive officer and director. Raviv Adler. Raviv is the chief financial officer. Renat Belfer, who's the chief operating officer. Gabriel Naftali, who's the vice president of product. And I believe that also with us today is Iris Etgar. Iris is the general counsel. And I want to also thank you for waiving the appearances of Mr. Laurent Tijan and Dan Teplitsky. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if it pleases you, would like to provide an affirmative presentation. I'd ask Mr. Malul to come forward and lead that presentation.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. And welcome, everyone.
Thank you. As Mr. Shearer said, first of all, good morning. And it's an extreme honor on behalf of management, shareholders, and board to be invited here. For anyone that works in the broader gaming industry globally, being in front of the Nevada Game Control Board is truly just an exceptional honor in itself. And we would like to thank you guys for setting up a special meeting for us as part of that process. My name is Mordecai Moti, as Scott said, Malul, and try to take you through the company history and overview, and hopefully to please any questions that you may have. That's okay. How do I flip the slides? Are they on the screen, or are we just doing them?
Just yet.
Okay, sure. So I think you probably have the materials in front of you. A bit about NeoGames history. Company was founded in 2014. It was actually a spin-off from a company that was called Aspire Global. There was a gaming company, B2B gaming company and B2C gaming company in the European markets, and we have spun up from them originally in order to dedicate our journey into working with lotteries in Europe, and then forward in the US and into gaming in the US when it opened up. In 2014, we launched our first US customer. That was with the Michigan State Lottery, an agreement that we had with a local Canadian, with a Canadian company called Pollard Banknote. And then we went on and formed NPI, Neo Pollard Interactive, which is a 50-50 JV that we have with them to support US lotteries. I would say by now, by the way, we have 5 North American customers. We have the Lottery of New Hampshire, Virginia, North Carolina, and we have the province of Alberta that I will get to in a second. And of course, then moved into gaming customers. In 2017, we signed a major customer in Europe that is a gaming operator with lottery and gaming licenses in the Czech Republic. It's part of the All-Win Group. It's called Sazka. And then in 2018, and I will get to that in a dedicated slide, William Hill, which was a shareholder of NeoGames since 2015. I'll get to a dedicated slide of William Hill and Caesars. In 2018, when Passport was repealed, William Hill, who knew our tech very well versus the tech that they then had in Europe, asked us to provide them our tech as a provider to the North American and primarily US gaming expansion process that they were going, and we became a part of their Liberty platform. I have a dedicated slide about that. In 2020, we went public in NASDAQ, just a week of Thanksgiving in 2020. By the way, a full IPO process done in COVID from home. I never met our chairman until about a year after IPO. So imagine that. I mean, we were good friends and we met, but we only saw each other in person about a year after the IPO. It's a crazy time for the industry overall, as we all remember. In 2020, we were selected as part of the JV that we have to be the provider of the sole gaming brand for the province of Alberta, with a full offering of gaming, including casino, live dealer, sports, and also the lottery products that they sell in their province, as part of them being a member of WCLC, which is the Western Canada Lottery Corporation. And in 22, we did an acquisition of Aspire Global, which is a company, and I'll get into the business divisions that we had that had sports betting technology. We did not have sport betting technology of ourselves. We had a player account management, but we did not have the sport betting technology of ourselves back then, and of course other gaming components to that part. And last but not least, as you might have heard earlier this week, it was announced that Aristocrat has made an offer to buy NeoGames in a market value of 1.2 billion enterprise value. The equity value is $1 billion, and the enterprise value is 1.2 because it included $200 million give or take of debt. It was done based on a share price of $29.5. Aristocrat and us has a message to the market that we think the deal will close in approximately 12 months because of the large number of jurisdictions that we hold licenses at, and gaming regulators need to give their opinion on the deal, both in Europe as well as in about 20 jurisdictions in the US and 2 in Canada. So that's why we hope that the process will not take that long, but we gave ourselves enough runway to complete that. Feel free, of course, to stop me with any questions in the process. And then NeoGames Group, as it is today, basically has 4 components within it. One is NeoGames, which is an iLottery and iGaming provider to state national lotteries, also Caesars, that is our account, and a few others in Brazil we have signed lately, and in Europe. Aspire Global, that is the party in the group that provides turnkey services, including managed services meaning customer support, marketing services to gaming operators. Periplay is a content aggregator platform and a studio that works to aggregate slot games to the gaming industry globally. They are licensed in 6, I think, states in the US already, and they have deals with all the big names in the markets. They're live with BetMGM, with Caesars, with DraftKings, and everyone else. And B2Bet is the sport betting company in the group that has a sports solution that is live in Europe in 6 or 7 markets, and it's in the process of being deployed to several of our other customers. And we went live with them also in the regulated market. We were the first ever company that went live in the regulated market in Brazil with the local license held by a partner that we have over there. So we take extreme pride of that as well. We have circa 1,100 employees in 8 main locations around the world. Half of our management team resides in Tel Aviv, and roughly the other half is spread across Europe in the different branches that we have over there, made out of the subsidiary that we recently purchased. We have customers across 4 continents, Africa in 20+ regulated markets over there, Europe, of course, which is the core markets that Aspire used to work at. As I said, even Latin America with a few regulated market customers over there, Canada in a number of provinces, and US in quite a large number of jurisdictions. We have in our group more than 200 customers, and we work in more than 50 regulated jurisdictions across North America, Europe, and Latin America. A bit about the relationship with Caesars. In 2015, a year after NeoGames was formed as a company, William Hill came in as an investor and bought 30%. It was a deal that was done back then with a $25 million injection into the company in a pre-money valuation, I think, of 65. I think they made a good round with the company. And then in 28, so they were only a shareholder, and a very good shareholder, for the first 3 years. And then after 3 years, when PassPro was repealed, as I said, they were looking for technology to boost their proprietary sport betting solution connected to our player account management. We were very honored that they selected us as their technology partner, and we signed a deal with them back then. And since then, we have been supporting them to the best of our ability as part of what they call the Liberty solution that is today deployed across 20 states already, plus by the Ontario in Canada. In 2021, Caesars acquired William Hill. They kept the technology agreement with NeoGames, and they also have kept their shares. However, since it wasn't a strategic holding for them, they divested the holding during 2021, I believe. And recently, in March this year, we signed an agreement with them to extend the deal that we have with them for an additional 3 years with potential extensions of 1-year options when that ends. And as I mentioned earlier, we're live today in about 20 markets in the US, knock on wood, and working already on 2 or 3 markets as a continuation to that process. And if we will be allowed, we would be happy to obviously roll out in Nevada as well. NeoGames structure is in front of you in page 9, which shows the trickling order from main shareholders that are here today with large representation. The public investors, which hold close to 40% of the shares in NeoGames, all of them hold shares in our holding company, which is the Luxembourg based entity called NeoGames SA. That entity has subsidiaries that trickle down to the rest of our business. Out of those subsidiaries, we have highlighted the two which are the subject of the application in front of the Nevada Gaming Control Board, which are NeoGames Systems, which is an Israeli company that holds NeoGames Solutions LLC, that is the US entity. Throughout, we conduct the business agreements that we have with Caesars, and Iris, our legal, will be able to explain more about that structure and any questions that the board may have. Am I running too fast? Is it okay? Should I stop? Yeah.
Nope, very good.
Sometimes I'm accused of just running forward.
Nope, wonderful. Please continue.
Thank you. A bit about our management team. I have the honor of being the CEO of the company for the past, I would say, 4.5 years, since the end of 2018. Before that, I've spent 10 years with the company, leading the global sales, business development, and marketing. And I took a significant part of the entry to the US market. I've been backpacking into this market ever since before the DOJ opinion of 2011, where everyone were not even sure if the market will open up, but we were very confident that the market will open up, and we invested in this market very, very early. And with me today, significant and senior members of our management team. Oded, our CTO, has been with us from before day one. He's a personal friend of our main shareholders and has been coding the system from day one, some 16, 17 years ago. Raviv Adler, my close friend and CFO of the company, that has been CFO for the past decade. As you can see, the team runs together for a long time. Rinat Belfer, our COO, which truly manages the company, not me. And she runs all the operations and tech in the vast majority of the company staff. And Iris Etkar, our general counsel, that reports into Raviv as CFO, but handles all legal compliance and regulation matters in the company. And now also, as part of the formation of the compliance committee, will oversee that for the entire group of companies that we have recently acquired, and we are in advanced process of integration. And we've also named Isaac Tzachi Maimon, which used to be the CEO of the company that we bought, and is president and head of iGaming in our group. He's not related to the Caesars transaction, which is why he wasn't a part of the application process here. He oversees the 3 other companies that we have bought as assets and works to promote their business, including in the US. Our board, we're blessed with a great chairman, John Taylor, that was the executive chairman of Twin River and a few other companies in the industry, a well-respected name and a great advisor. And we have the other members of our board, Ronnie Aran, which is here with us, Barak, that is here with us, and Laurent Tijen, which is our Luxembourg-based board member that is not a part of the audit committee or compliance committee, and therefore we're thankful that he was excused from being in front of the board today. A bit about the financial performance of the company. We're publicly traded, so the numbers are there, and if you would need any more information about that, Raviv, our CFO, is here with us. But just a few highlights of numbers to show stability and financial strength. Revenues in our full year 2022 were $165 million with an EBITDA of $4.5 million. We just reported Q1 revenues for 2023 last week, and we messaged to the market that we were able to reach $64.3 million in Q1, and a combined EBITDA in Q1 of $20.2 million. We took debt in order to pay for 50% of the shares of Aspire Global. The other 50% were paid in company shares. And that debt is around $240 million, which suggests a leverage ratio of a bit less than 2.8, which we feel very comfortable with, and we will do our best, of course, to deliver over time. We have messaged to the market earlier this year, gave guidance that we expect revenues in 2023 to be between 235 to 255. So on the midpoint, 245, which would represent on a pro forma basis, about 10.5% growth year on year from 2022. And not only that we have positive EBITDA, but also positive cash. We are generating positive cash in our business, and our cash position at the end of Q1 was a bit over $44 million. So I hope that plays for explaining the stability of the business in this troubled time of a few other businesses. Knock on wood, we feel that we are a stable company. I would like, with your permission, to call for Iris Edgar, our General Counsel, to take the board through the regulatory and compliance parts of the presentation.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us to be here. It's an honor to be here, and we've been expecting this for a long time, and we hope that will be clear and provide confidence that we're suitable for the license. My name is Iris Edgar. I'm EVP of Regulatory Affairs, General Counsel, and Compliance in the company in NeoGames SA. Moti went through the group structure, and if you a little bit of color around that, the companies that are highlighted in the slide are the companies that are applying for the license. The manufacturer, NeoGame System, is the Israeli entity, which is the entity that actually holds the IP and the manufacturer of the IP, providing the distributing rights to the company NeoGames US and NeoGame Solutions, allowing also NeoGame Solutions to make modifications if required, and having some control over the technology itself. Thank you. It's on page 9. And moving on to the compliance and regulatory affairs, our committees, the Audit Committee, Nomination and Corporate Governance Committee, Compensation Committee, and now we're establishing the Compliance Committee. It's actually, it is a requirement of Nevada, but it's also a natural part of the growth of the company. As Mr. Malul has stated, the company has acquired the Aspire Global Group with 3 different business units that he provided information about before, which really makes the compliance a much more complicated and wide area. So the compliance, establishing the compliance committee and putting in place a compliance plan is really a natural next step of the company. We've approved the compliance plan itself. The board of directors have approved it, approved the members, and all of this will of course be submitted for approval by the Nevada regulator. So we're in the process of doing this. And again, putting all this in place is really a natural part of being such a large group at this place with different kind of businesses happening in business operations in so many jurisdictions. So the compliance in the company is subject to the different jurisdictions. It's not only US, as Moti said before, it's other regulated markets around the world with different requirements around the world. We're in the process of aligning all of these requirements, or at least making a minimum base to make sure that we don't step out of what we need to provide in every one of the jurisdictions. Each business unit has a different way of operation. The services provided and the platform provided are different. The licenses are a little bit different, and especially I think we had a few questions from the staff regarding Aspire Global, which operates with a B2C license in a few of the jurisdictions, and that's why the policies put in place there are appropriate to the required B2C jurisdiction and B2C licenses. So putting all this together, again, this will be under the headquarter compliance in NeoGames. We're also well, now that we've signed or executed the transaction with Aristocrat, we'll be working together with them and how the best way to handle having a compliance officer on a group level as well which will be reporting to me. So really, this is, as I said before, it's due to the requirement in Nevada, but really a natural step to have a wide overlook, and control of what is going on in the company with regards to fulfilling all compliance requests. Our compliance committee chair will be John Taylor, who is also our board chair. And together with him, our CEO, Mr. Moti Malul, and our legal advisor, Scott Scherer. He's also advised us on the plan itself, which, as I said, will be submitted for your approval. We take this in a very serious matter, and we're very committed, and that's why it was important for us that the members be really the highest management and control members in the entire group. Every business unit has its own compliance team, and compliance officer has its own MLRO, anti-money laundering officer. And that's again a result of the transaction, which was acquiring Aspire Global last year, June 22. And like I've said before, we're in the process of having all this come into one headquarters kind of lookout and regulation upon the entire group. So the business units are controlling the compliance and regulating the compliance in the business units, and they'll be reporting to a main reporting system, which will be held on a group level. And all of these will be reporting to the compliance committee. We've adopted the significant policies required, A, as a company traded in the NASDAQ, B, as a company in these regulated markets in the industry that are appropriate for the industry, and C, as needed and required in the separate jurisdictions according to the type of license and type of operations in that jurisdiction. So NeoGames Code of Conduct provides, of course, information about the behavior and level of integrity expected of our employees, directors, officers, and consultants. And we have our policies placed on our website, of course. We have our policies informed to all our employees. There's training that the employees and our consultants go through yearly. Some of it is e-learning, some of it is actual in the old way, getting together and actually a frontal training. We have an anti-corruption policy put in place as required also by a company that's traded in the NASDAQ. Whistleblower policy and the possibility to submit complaints in an anonymous way. We have anti-money laundering policies and combating terrorist finances in place, again separately for each of the units because of the different requirements of each of the units, their business and the jurisdictions that they're in. We can probably specially mention the UK regulator, which is has a very strict requirements for anti-money laundering, similar to what we have in the US. There are many other group policies, which I mentioned here on slides, which are in place with the different units. Again, a little bit different for each unit, but we're in the process of aligning them all together and putting a minimum requirement. How do we ensure our compliance? We ensure our compliance different ways. We monitor it with regulatory requirements and internal policies, which are updated from time to time. We have the training and education, as I said before, e-learning and frontal learning. We have reporting processes and escalation requirements. The teams meeting together, they have very clear instructions on what has to be notified and to whom. Of course, this will come in perfect cadence with the compliance committee to be established. We have technical compliance as a tech company, such as responsible gaming tools, and certification requires the tech itself to go through certification, which includes compliance requirements. From time to time, we have review and auditing going on in the company. Sometimes it's from a request from one of the regulators, and sometimes it's internal auditing. And of course, the policy periodic reviews and effectivity, and these are updated from time to time. We also have certifications. Some of them are on the security side, and others are responsible gaming side. You have that in slide number 20. For instance, the WLA Security Controlled Standard Level 2, WLA Responsible Gaming Framework, which was put in place not too long ago, and ISO's 9001, 27001, and 27701. Again, implementing many security requirements with regards to the tech and policies and procedures that are in place. The company is also taking initiatives with ESG, the environmental, social, and governance requirements, which are more, to be honest, required in the European jurisdiction. Aspire Global was implementing those as a requirement. They were traded in Sweden, and we are now taking many of their processes and implementing it upon the whole group, such as carbon footprint measures. I must say that with regards to social actions, all of the units in the group are very active. Diversity is put in place in the workforce, as well as we've been selected as finalists in 5 categories in the Women in Gaming Awards, including Community Engagement and Company of the Year. So this is actually an exciting part of the of this year that we've decided to put in the entire group until the end of 2023. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Ms. Edgar. I did have one question. You were talking about the Gaming Compliance Committee, and I'm sure working with Mr. Scheer, you understand pursuant to the order that there needs to be an independent person on the committee who is knowledgeable of the Nevada Gaming Control Act.
Yes, that would be Mr. Scheer.
Good. Mr. Scheer is actually going to be on the Compliance Committee.
I'll be a member of the committee, and John Taylor also has strong background in gaming regulation as well. He's an independent member of the board, so he has that independence as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edgar. Mr. Malul, did you have something else to add?
No, just wanted to maybe close by saying that one of the things that Iris mentioned, but it's important for us to re-mention, is our commitment beyond just is what's required in regulation for the area of responsible gaming. Being a good citizen in all the jurisdictions that we work in, primarily because a big portion of our customer base are national and state lotteries around the world. We take a lot of attention to that area. We're certified at WLA, which is the World Lottery Association Responsible Gaming Framework, and we hold the highest degree to that area. And I wanted to mention also that when we started our operation in the US, in Michigan in 2014, we were the first that were certified of what was called ICAP, which was the first internet framework for the National Council of Problem Gaming. And it's an area that we have donated and we highly invest in. So I hope that the information we provided so far was meaningful and helpful, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Yes, very impressive presentation. Thank you. Mr. Scheer, would you like to introduce the individuals? Or would you like to have the board discuss the company applications first?
However you'd prefer to proceed. While it's fresh in your mind, if company questions are appropriate, and then we can have the individuals come forward.
That's certainly fine with me. Let's focus then on the applications of the entities. Are there questions from board members?
Good morning.
With regard to ensuring compliance, internal counsel spoke about monitoring compliance with regulatory requirements and internal policies. Can we have an example of the internal policies that help to monitor compliance?
And I will say, while Iris is coming forward, that obviously she's had a big job here of pulling together with the Aspire Global transaction, pulling together all of the different compliance policies from the different companies and trying to put them into one, but perhaps she can give you some concrete examples there.
So can you ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Just how, I'd like to know more about how you monitor compliance.
Okay, well, we built, as I said before, each unit has a separate compliance team, and we built a process that these compliance team have transparency between them, raising every issue that needs to be raised or changes to policy, and sharing the information so everything is transparent and we can learn and consult with one another. So this is taking 4 different business units and uniting the operations and the processes together. So that would be, I think, the first step of how we can monitor our compliance. So for instance, if in the UK jurisdiction there is a requirement for change, and one of the business unit that is licensed in UK is aware of this change, they will share immediately with the rest of the teams, bringing this forward and reporting the change. Otherwise, than that, there in each of the unit, there are in the teams themselves. They go over through regularly the changes in required compliance of this specific jurisdiction. And as I said before, notify the rest of the team, and most importantly, that business unit itself, and make the changes. Does that kind of answer the question?
It's helpful. So information sharing is an example.
And transparency and ongoing monitoring of the different changes in the jurisdictions by the relevant teams in the relevant jurisdictions.
Okay, and you're working on unifying the compliance structure, is that correct?
Well, at the moment, it's done separately in the business units, but then it comes, the transparency and the working in a collaborative way brings it together. So yes, we're working on unifying it and putting the teams in a more unified form. Not necessarily that what happens in UK is relevant for what happens in US, for instance, but still it may require changes in the group and may require a notification to the different regulators of events. For instance, we've put together a policy that requires each one of the compliance officers to report on our reporting system and then bring it into the biweekly meetings we have in the event of an audit or review or a request or claim of any one of the regulators. So this is immediately known to all, and then reporting can be done if required accordingly. In addition, as I said before, many of the compliance requirements are implemented inside the tech itself, and through the tech teams or through the product itself, compliance is also being monitored and reviewed.
Perfect, thank you.
Sorry? Yeah, and of course, there's also what we mentioned before, the internal audit processes that we do. Sometimes it's an internal initiative, and sometimes it's required from one of the regulators. And if we, even use an example, so the due diligence policies and processes, again, they're separate in each business unit, and we're actually putting together now a group due diligence process to make sure that everybody's adhering to the minimum requirements to make sure that we're 100% compliant. This, as I said before, fits in perfect with our compliance plan of the compliance committee, making sure that a company is not making business or doing business with unsuitable partners, vendors, players, customers.
What does your third-party due diligence look like?
Sorry?
Third-party due diligence?
Well, it depends if the third party is licensed or not licensed, it's if a public company or not a public company, if it what the type of business is to be with them. Of course, it's different if it's a player with Aspire Global under the B2C licenses, or for instance, if it's a B2B, a vendor who's receiving games from a business unit like PeriPlay, which is one of the business units in the group. So there would be different levels of due diligence processes. There would be from the basic and going up to deeper levels of due diligence, depending on the type of engagement that we're talking about, and depending on the type of license that we're talking about. Once again, I'm saying that every business unit holds this process on its own today, and we are unifying it all together. So we will be using the same vendors, for instance, WorldCheck, et cetera, to make sure that we're all working under the same systems.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Edgar, before you go away, I did have one more question for you. Licensing in new jurisdictions, renewal in existing jurisdictions, is that licensing process under your responsibilities?
Well, yes, it is. Again, each licensing process is held by the business unit that is interested in the license in that jurisdiction. We have a restricted list of jurisdiction where license cannot be obtained. And on top of that, every business unit has restricted markets lists which they cannot do business in. To be honest, under the aristocrat transaction, now everything was, came up on the due diligence, and so each business unit has its restricted license markets, and of course there's the sanctioned companies. So the main restrictions are known to all companies. Again, this is transparent, shared information between the business units, making sure that everybody knows what applies to the other business unit and that we comply.
And I understand you're saying that's being conglomerated into a hierarchy system, more of a centralized system. Do you have people who deal with licensing requests separate from your compliance people currently, or are your compliance people the ones who would deal with Nevada or any other jurisdiction requests for documents, interviews, those type of things?
So there's the compliance officer in each unit who's responsible for that unit. And under that compliance officer, there would be people who are responsible for the licensing itself, for the certification for the product in the labs, separate from them. Again, depending on the size of the company and the size of the units. I can give you an example for NeoGames itself, and for this application, we have a licensing team which are in charge of all the licensing and the investigation. Since everything comes up at the end to the beneficial owners of NeoGames SAs, and then at the end everything does run through the compliance team of NeoGames.
Thank you. Please.
Add to that just a bit color from my perspective, the less legal one. Respecting the fact that we are really less than a year in the integration process. So we found ourselves in a stage that a few of the companies that we have acquired were in the process of license application that were running even from before the acquisition. And obviously the auditors of those jurisdictions came forward and said, hey, but we interviewed you a couple of months ago for NeoGames. Now we see an application coming in from another company. So obviously we explained to them that we are in the process of, so we didn't want to stop the process of licensing that those entities were already in the middle of, because it would have delayed the process. So we decided to basically cater for that process to continue by following that through and answering the questions. And now going forward, making sure that when we apply for new licenses, we're doing that in the central way of, just because licenses, as you know, take time. We had probably 5 or 6 jurisdictions where some of the companies in the group were in the process of applying for, and we decided just to let those processes continue and satisfy any questions from the regulators, telling them now it's us basically. So when you looked at the beneficiary or owner, it would be us, and it's the combination of company and myself that has been requested to be interviewed. By the way, lately in the last, I would say 6 months, I've been interviewed a lot as part of the application processes, which started by the companies we bought, But the auditors realized that now there's new holding co, and we have taken over those processes. We didn't lapse them; we've taken over them to continue them together with the different entities in the group. So we're expecting that when we finish this PMI process, which will probably take another quarter or maximum 2, the new applications that will be done going forward beyond that point would have been done through the centralized jurisdiction of IRIS. So just giving you color of respecting the fact that we haven't finalized all of the PMI process that we went through after the acquisition.
Yes, thank you for that explanation. You kind of started answering my next question, which was, as you can see, Nevada does a very thorough investigation, and with the number of entities involved and the number of actual human being applicants involved, it does take a significant amount of time. And of course, what we're always looking for, as much as you're looking for, is to expedite the process and speed it up. Certain things take amount of time, but the more we get cooperation with dedicated people who are there to provide access and there to provide responses to us or any other jurisdictions. And it's very clear from the list of licenses that all of your entities hold that you've been through a lot of investigations. We're looking for as much cooperation as we can get so we can turn around and ask you for more information and then get these on our agendas as soon as possible. So I appreciate you explaining the process that you've been going through and where you hope it'll be in the next quarter or two. Thank you. Judge, did you have questions for the entities?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. First of all, welcome, and we hope you enjoy your stay here in Las Vegas while you're here. Hope you're not too jet lagged. But thank you all for being here. That was an excellent presentation. I'd like to commend Chief Hoffman and his agents for doing a very thorough job. We were very well prepared. We have a very thick binder that we went through yesterday, so it answers a lot of my questions that I had. And I have a good friend. His name is Mordechai. Is that Mordechai or Mordecai?
Yeah.
How do you pronounce it?
However you
Okay.
prefer it to be pronounced. It's probably only my father who calls me by that name.
Mordechai.
Yes.
All right. Very good.
But everyone else goes by Moti. But and then I know that he's angry. Yeah.
But I would appreciate it if you could just maybe touch on a little bit between the relationship between Neo Games and Aspire. I read where Neo was a spinoff originally, and then I guess you reacquired Aspire at a subsequent date. If you could maybe elaborate on that relationship and what is it a joint venture currently, or are they a wholly owned subsidiary and those kind of things?
Yeah, I'll be happy to provide color. So we were formed by Barak Matalon over here, late 2005, early 2006 was the genesis of the company. And in the early days, it started as an operator in the gaming industry in Europe, holding B2C licenses. And then we started, when I joined in 2008, we started to shift our focus into B2B and selling our technology and services to operators, and then later on in the process also to lotteries. And we realized that it's pretty hard to satisfy a business where you have a B2C and a B2B operation at the same time. Different mindsets, mentalities, different fighting for resources, and so on. And we decided by 2014 that the both sides of the business have been successful enough that it's time to primarily split them, specifically because Neo Games wanted to exploit in full the opportunity of serving national lotteries beyond the gaming operator, and Aspire was basically, we spun out of Aspire and they were left with the business, which were, Raka, what was the percentage of B2C, B2B and Aspire in the split?
B2B.
Was 60, yeah, it was about 60% B2B and about 40% B2C that they had in their business. They went public in the Swedish Nasdaq stock exchange, and followed through. And we, as I said, decided to kind of dedicate our destiny to work primarily back at that time with national and state lotteries. And then about a year and a half ago, we noticed a phenomena, which, by the way, does not yet exist in the US market, but in Canada, it does in full, and in Europe, it does in full, where our customers, which were the national lotteries, were going into gaming. They were expanding into gaming. So if you look at Europe today, the majority of the national lotteries in their online operation, not land-based, they provide full gaming products, sport betting, slot games, casino games, live dealers, and so on and so forth. So we realized that there's a shift in the industry that is converging between the two domains, especially in the online space. And we decided to seek, for our own needs, NeoGames, we decided to seek for assets that we will be able to bring to our customers sport betting solutions and gaming solutions. By that time, in a coincidence, Aspire divested its B2C business and became a full B2B entity. And it came out as part of the process that we have done to explore assets that this became a good opportunity for us. And we have fully acquired them. So it's a fully acquired subsidiary or subsidiaries, because there's quite a few companies in that group of companies. We primarily did that acquisition, obviously, in order, as I said, to take those products and knowledge and services to our lottery audiences. But of course, they had such a substantial and good business on sport betting and gaming that continues to work parallel to us in those domains today. So that was the whole process. We got a lot of questions of, are you buying the same company that you left? And we said, no, we're buying a completely different company, because they're not B2C anymore, and they bought sport betting and they bought Periplay. So it was a different type of company since yeah.
And currently, what is the relationship?
It's a fully owned subsidiary of.
They're a fully owned subsidiary. Okay, great. Thank you for that. And then just approximately what percentage of the company is iLottery versus iGames versus sports betting?
Depend on what
jurisdiction, I would imagine.
I'm saying if revenues or EBITDA, but if we look at revenues, Raviv, you want to help me out roughly?
Come on forward.
Yeah.
Say your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Raviv Adler. I'm the CFO. Thanks for having us today. So if you try to split the company business, into segments, and you take the guidance that we gave to the market on revenues for 2023, so that would be between $235 to $255 million. iLottery of that is 100 mil. The gaming side that represents by Aspire is 50 mil on the platform deal, 50 on the gaming aggregation, and the remainder 25 mil is the sportsbook.
25%?
25 mil.
25 million.
Yeah, out of the 225. So that's roughly 10%.
I'm a lawyer. I can't do math.
Yeah.
So percentage-wise, the sports betting is at the lower end, probably
Yes.
20, 30%, and then
In terms of share of revenues,
and the predominant is iLottery,
yes.
and
Right.
especially in Europe, I would imagine, right?
Actually, in the US,
US?
the lottery in the US is the
Interesting.
biggest share both of the revenues as well as the profit.
Very good. Thank you for that. And then the relationship that you're about to engage in with Aristocrat,
Yeah.
do you have any sense of timing? I know you said 50 jurisdictions you're operating in currently, so you'll have to be licensed and approved, I would imagine, in most, if not all, of those jurisdictions. How long do you anticipate that process might take? Maybe that's a question for Mr. Shear. I don't know.
No, we actually messaged to the market in, of course, full collaboration with the Aristocrat that we believe it would take approximately 12 months, primarily because of gaming regulators.
Mhm.
However, we hope for the process to be smooth in North America, because there are very little jurisdictions, if at all, in which we're licensed and they're not.
Mhm.
And Aristocrat is obviously such a respectful citizen in the gaming industry globally and in the US, of course, specifically. So we're hopeful that it will provide for a smooth process to get approved.
Yeah, that would be great if you could wrap it up in a year. That's pretty much all I have. I just think it's really exciting for Nevada to have such exposure to international and global companies. We have a couple of Indian tribes have purchased operations here in Nevada, and we have other companies now, such as yours, from all over the world. 40 years ago, when I was a blackjack dealer here, it was just a couple of local companies and a couple of mob-owned casinos, and now we're one of the leading international global entities. It's just fantastic for Nevada gaming the state, the reputation, the employment, the industry, all the people that we're employing. So congratulations. I'm looking forward to supporting your application.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Got a question for you, Mr. Malul, or perhaps this is for Mr. Adler. You mentioned about Q1 2023 being up significantly. Just wondered if you wanted to expound on that. Why do you believe it's gone up over 100% year over year?
The transaction that we have done to acquire Aspire Global closed in June 15th last year. So reminding the board that Q1 last year, we did not yet have the revenues from Aspire on our books. So a significant portion of that year-on-year increase. Well, that year-on-year increase is obviously an organic growth of the segments that we had naturally in our business, plus adding of the first, it's not the first full quarter because we had already Q3 and Q4 last year. But when you compare it to Q1 last year, we did not have the Aspire revenues in our books.
Got it. Thank you. And this may be for you or Ms. Edgar. I want to know what the status is of your application in Indiana. If you can, I don't want you to divulge anything that may be confidential, but if you can tell me where your applications are currently in the state of Indiana.
Of course.
The application now, we believe will be on a hearing June. We believe it'll be June 12th to turn the application from a temporary application to a permanent one. We've notified IGC with regards to the shares of one of the shareholders has been notified to the market as well that have gone below 5%. We've notified of the transaction with Aristocrat as we've notified all the regulators. So we're optimistic and we're hoping for an approval.
Thank you. Do you happen to know how many other temporary licenses you have, and if that's something you need to provide to us later? I know you're hitting a little bit flat-footed with that question, but understand that Indiana has that type of a process with a temporary licensure. Do you have several others, or maybe Mr. Shear knows?
I believe there's a couple. I can get back to you with the precise number.
That'd be fine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think New Jersey's probably on a transactional waiver. Colorado was a temporary license, but it's been made permanent, although you have to renew them every 2 years, whether it's temporary license or not, but they've gone through the full process in Colorado.
How about Europe? Do they use either of those two processes? Temporary?
In Europe?
Yes.
No,
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you. I didn't have other questions on the entities. Member Watkins, did you have any questions on the entity applications?
I have a question about regulatory violations.
Please.
With regard to Belgium, Sweden, and United Kingdom, can someone address by summarizing and telling us the status and how you've addressed the concerns of those violations?
Start and I can pick it up.
It's different ones.
Yeah. You want to start with Belgium? Sure. Well, Belgium, I don't, and for the record, Scott Shearer, Belgium, I don't believe is a company violation. That is
Yeah,
there.
sorry. Yes, that's
Sorry.
all good, yeah.
Okay.
No, Belgium is not a company violation. It's maybe I'll try to answer your question better. Can you ask the question again so I can be more specific?
With regard to Belgium, Sweden, and United Kingdom, can you provide a summary, address the status, and talk about how you've addressed the concerns related to the regulatory violations?
Okay. Excuse me.
Don't forget
Sorry for
first.
confidentiality.
May I just
Please.
comment on Sweden? So Sweden, the license has been surrendered by Aspire Global after applying for a license, given that the structure of the regulation and the structure of marketing activities became to some extent, didn't make any sense from a commercial point of view to hold a license. So they've decided to surrender the license. This is in Sweden.
Okay.
And in the UK, the license has been under, as you know, the UKGC are running review of the license once every few couple of quarters or years. In the most recent one, they came out to find that there has been some lacking in procedures in due diligence on partners on Aspire Global. And they fined the company, and we paid the fine, and we've restructured the processes to adhere and to meet the concerns that were raised by the commission. That's relative to the UK.
How
And
so?
sorry?
How so? How have you addressed those concerns?
Now, before contracting with third party, with business partner, as Ms. Edgar explained, we're running a full, thorough due diligence process. And for those who doesn't fit the profile that we're happy with, we're simply not doing business with. And relative to Belgium, we'll need to go out and search.
Yeah. The case in the UK, by the way, was related to a customer. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I'm saying this.
It's being transcribed. She's not in the room.
I'm sorry. No. I apologize.
Transcribing. So
No,
stay near the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that the case in UK was a deal that we have signed with a partner. We have not gone live with that partner, and revenues were not generated with that partner. But because the UKGC has been made aware of the partner that we have signed a deal, and obviously they've done their own investigation and thought that there are issues over there, they've asked us to do our further due diligence, and they found that we have not done that enough. But just important for me to state that we were never live. We canceled the agreement with that partner before going live with them even. But yes, we have been fined for that in what we believe was a modest fine, relatively speaking, to the fact that there were no revenues or other violations as part of that. And we have enhanced our due diligence process as a result of that. And all the other companies in the group are benefiting from that enhancement.
I'll state also that there was we took an external company to help us with our due diligence processes, and as a result, and we're making the changes according to that report. We have us on Zoom with us on the line, Council Liran Barak, and he can also add color. I see he's with us, if that would be okay, and if you have more questions, you could add color.
Yeah, if you could just give examples, specific examples about how you've addressed the concerns in the UK, especially as it relates to AML, that would be great. And or if other council would like to do it, that's also fine.
Happy to jump in on that point if you would like, Iris.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for the record, my name is Liran Barak. I'm a partner in the Herzog, Fox and Niemann law firm. I had the firm's gaming practice, and I've been working with NeoGames as a customer for roughly a decade now. With respect to the UK process, that process has been identified as like you said, an AML breach that was at the basis of it, a KYC issue with respect to a few white label partners that prior to going live with were not fully executed in terms of the KYC. However, it was the company's intention to complete that KYC prior to taking operations live. The Gambling Commission, however, did not appreciate that and had fined the company, like Moti had mentioned, requiring it to complete its due diligence prior to actually signing or inking any agreements before even taking those live. So that issue has been dealt with both by review by the Gambling Commission, and through the review process, the company had provided to the Gambling Commission updated policies and procedures that were meant to address the failings identified. And only once those remedial actions were taken and upgraded policies have been provided to the Commission, and the Commission had found them to be suitable and appropriate, was the case eventually closed. I'm also happy to add in some context with respect to Belgium. I know that you've asked about the Belgium case. And so Belgium, Moti, if you would like me to speak to that.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, so in Belgium, the company had a license revocation process that all emanated from the fact that a technical integration of a portion of the system was not concluded in due time, according to the local regulator. Now, the company's own position was that this specific upgrade or development was not actually warranted, and that the commission that had issued the technical requirements that demanded its implementation were basically ultra-virus and stepping outside the bounds of our jurisdiction. The license has been revoked as a consequence, and the company is currently still involved in the process of appealing that decision. And based on the latest developments that are coming out of the Belgian courts, it would appear that we have a substantial chance of overturning that decision and having the license revocation overturned by virtue of the fact that the requirement to have that technical integration was issued without sufficient jurisdiction.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was helpful.
Other questions, Member Watkins?
I don't have anything else, Chair.
Okay. Judge, other questions about the entities?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I have no questions or concerns.
Mr. Shearer, Mr. Malul, anything else just regarding the applications and the entities?
With regard to the applications and the entities, I'd like to thank the staff, especially Supervisor Doyle, Senior Agent Crowley, and all of their teams. Obviously, with this many applicants, they were large teams, so we appreciate all of their work on these applications. I have had an opportunity to review the order of registration. I've had an opportunity to review the shelf order as well, which may be on the next item. I don't think has been read into the agenda yet. So I did want to say that. With regard to the sort of centralized compliance function, I will say before we sort of call the individuals forward that there was somewhat of a separation initially that was done with some of the outside shareholders that in order to preserve sort of their privacy, that was going through an outside law firm and not going through the compliance team itself at the company. I don't think there were any issues or concerns with the company or its production of documents and the officers, those who are active every day in the company. At some point, we decided we had to sort of merge those processes back together. Mr. Brock was very helpful in that process as well. And then we also were able to get the company's compliance team involved. And I think that made a significant difference in moving things forward. So.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Shear, and I'll jump into that. You are certainly well aware and appreciate Mr. Barak joining us and heard very good things about the cooperation that you were able to provide. There were a significant number of challenges, which I assume is the breadth of these applications and the fact that our staff was trying to move as quickly as possible. There's a lot of different applications, a lot of different entities, and I will say on behalf of our staff that I appreciate you acknowledging everything that they've done at the Game Control Board, because there were, as I said, challenges. I wouldn't say concerns as much as I would say challenges, and working through those, as you said, being more cooperative in trying to get our agents what they need. Certainly the amount of licenses that Neo Games has shows that they've been through investigations many times. A Nevada application, Nevada investigation just may be different. And of course, when we ask for something, we're not asking for just trying to create busy work. We're asking because it shows somewhere. It shows flows of money in, flows of money out. It shows backgrounds, and we do a extremely thorough background investigation. As you know, Mr. Shear, having sit on this side of the dais, that it's really about front loading our industry. Once we give the licenses and the approvals, we then expect those people that got inside the gates to know that it's a privileged license. And I appreciate all the men and women who are here today for understanding that and working through all the challenges that we had. And so with that, I'd like to take just 5-minute break, and then we will go into the actual applications of the officers, directors, and board members and significant shareholders. So we'll just take a 5-minute recess and come back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's go back on the record. So, Mr. Shear, I'm not sure if we have the applicants in the same order as what's on the agenda. So with your indulgence, I think I'll just go according to our binder here, and I'll call out the name and you can have them come up and introduce themselves, and we'll go in that order if that's okay with you. And if you have a presentation you'd like to start with, please feel free.
Well, I'd like to do two things if I could, Mr. Chairman. One, I'd like to take John Taylor out of that order if that's okay with you, and have him go first as the chairman of the board. And primarily because he's had a lot of experience with compliance processes. I want him to tell you about his experience in that regard. I also wanted to mention the fact that the incidents in Belgium and Sweden and the UK were all Aspire Global incidents. They all occurred prior to, and they all started and ended before NeoGames acquired Aspire Global. So, and then John could talk a little bit about his experience in kind of bringing a compliance team together, and it's probably best if I let him discuss it. So John, if you'd come forward and talk about your background a little bit, and then whichever order you prefer after that, Mr. Chairman, would be fine.
No, thank you, Mr. Shear. That's appreciated. And yes, Mr. Taylor, you were first in our order, so happy to have you here, and thank you for appearing in front of us today.
Thank you, and thank you again for having us. Thanks for accommodating us from a special meeting perspective. It helps a lot of folks who would have had to come back and forth a couple times. So thank you. My name's John Taylor. I'm the chairman of the board of NeoGames SA. I got involved with the company in the summer of 2020 as it was beginning to think about going public, on the NASDAQ. A little bit about my background. I started at GTEC in the early 90s, kind of worked on the staff of the CEOs, co-CEOs at the time. At the time, it was a fast-moving lottery authorization environment where states were considering, authorizing lotteries and what that meant. As any good staff person, I wanted to run something, and I ended up running all of the company's non-lottery gaming businesses globally, which included its Keno business, its video lottery business, its casino operations business, as well as some Native American relationships that we had. I left GTEC at 2000, did some things outside of the industry for a few years, but then got brought back by some folks at a private firm based in Boston, Bain Capital. They had a business based in Boston called Game Logic. It's an internet games company before internet games companies were as big as they are now, social games. That company we sold to Scientific Games. And from there, that private equity firm got me involved in a bankruptcy situation that they were involved with at Twin River. So at the time, Twin River was a single asset casino based just north of Providence. It was not a business that was sick at the time. It was a business that took on too much debt that it couldn't support when the economy in 2008, 2009 went sideways. So I was brought in to help Twin River kind of get through the bankruptcy process, as well as to begin to build a company, single asset video lottery business in Rhode Island. We had a racetrack just outside of Denver, but it needed process, and it needed things that it hadn't thought about, in terms of kind of formalized audit structures and audit committees, and ultimately AML committees and compliance committees. So I kind of evolved with, helped evolve that company to a place where we acquired the Hard Rock Casino in Biloxi, Mississippi. We reverse merged into a New York Stock Exchange company, taking the company public, a company called Dover Downs, and ultimately bought additional casinos in Colorado and Missouri. So I really had a fair amount of experience in terms of how to help companies build structures that were critical as they grew up. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why the folks associated with NeoGames kind of reached out when they did, which was, at the time, a very, very interesting internet lottery business. Obviously, I had some experiences in the lottery space earlier in my career, but also, could help them from, structures that ultimately needed to be put into place. And, this hearing is the next step in the evolution from a much more formalized compliance structure that the company will put in place. I've been the chairman of an audit committee of a publicly traded company for a number of years and have that experience. And I think that we are well positioned as we continue to digest the Aspire transaction to be able to move forward in a very solid and appropriate manner. So that's a little bit about my background. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Questions from board members?
None for me, Chair.
Mr. Taylor's reputation precedes him. He's got an excellent resume and background. I have no questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Taylor, and appreciate you also explaining a little bit more about the compliance plan and the compliance future of the company. Your regulatory background obviously makes your application easier for us to digest. We appreciate that, and your cooperation with our agents was stellar, so we appreciate that as well. I didn't have any further questions about your background or your application, and we appreciate you appearing before us, and we wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Shear, unless you had a different order, next in our book is Mr. Malul.
Certainly.
Hello again. Please state your name again for the record.
Yes, my name is Mordecai Moti Malul. I'm the CEO of the company.
Thank you. And we've spoken to you a little bit already this morning. Is there anything you wanted to add on your personal application?
Just a background on myself, as John have. Before joining NeoGames, I spent more than 10 years in the telecom industry in various roles on business development, marketing, and so on. I've been with NeoGames since November 2008. As I mentioned, the first 10 years handling global sales, business development, and marketing, and playing a significant role in getting into the US market as part of that, and stepped into the role of CEO closer to the end of 2018. Played a role in taking the company public in 2020, and of course, overseeing the acquisition of Aspire later on, and now the potential sale to Aristocrat.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Malul. And again, enjoyed speaking with you this morning. I didn't have questions on your personal application, so appreciate you working with our investigators as they delved into your background, and your cooperation with them is certainly appreciated. Questions from board members?
Thank you for your presentations. I don't have any questions, and thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you.
Yes, I as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate the presentation earlier this morning. I think you've covered all the concerns that I might have. So,
thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malul. Next, we have Mr. Adler. State your name again for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Raviv Adler. Been around in the business as CFO over 10 years now.
You give us a little bit on your personal background and why you came into this position?
Sure. So I started my career as an intern, and later on as an auditor with an accounting firm, Ernst & Young. Been working for that firm for 5 years. Then moving to Hewlett Packard, their local office in Israel. Been working there for 2.5 years. Then got an opportunity for what was back at the time a very kind of big company in the tech scene in Tel Aviv, the company called Modu Connection. came out to be not as successful as people expected. And then in 2010, I've moved to Neo Games after the company was dissolved.
Thank you for that. How many times have you been licensed or found suitable or gone through an investigation, roughly? You don't have to be exact.
Like this one in Nevada, never.
Yes.
Generally speaking, I've completed quite few multi-jurisdiction forms in Jersey, in Michigan, in Indiana. Probably I missed few, obviously in Nevada, and also a few in Europe. Not in the extent that is required here in the States, but conceptually the same type of process.
Thank you, and thank you for your application and cooperation with the board. I didn't have any questions about your personal background, and certainly your resume is impressive. And with that, I would ask if there's questions or comments from other board members about Mr. Adler.
Thank you for your application and cooperation. I don't have any questions regarding your personal background.
Thank you for being here. I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Ms. Watkins. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have Ms. Belfer. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Rinat Belfer, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer in Neo Games. I've been with Neo Games since 2009. Previously, I used to work in the telecom industry. I'm an industrial management engineer with master degree in business administration. I've been serving as the COO for the past 4 years, a bit more, driving operational excellence. Under my responsibility lies the product development and tech ops for our customers. And I'm also in charge of labor relations and human resources in Neo Games and business optimization, seeking for continuous improvement and transformation for the organization.
Thank you, Ms. Belfer. Appreciate that. Welcome. And also, I did not have questions on your background or your application, and as well as the others. Thank you for cooperating with our investigation. We know it's not always easy, but as I mentioned earlier, it's important for us to bring good people into the industry in Nevada, and we look forward to having people like you be part of the gaming industry in our state. Questions or comments from board members?
Can you tell us a little bit about your background prior to 2009?
Yes, I came to Neo Games very young, but I did work first as a student during the industrial management engineering studies in LOP. It's a company that belongs now to Elbit Systems. It's a land security company in Israel. And I started as a project manager. I led mainly implementation of knowledge management systems. After being there as a student, when I finished the degree, I started a full-time position in a consultant company, Orantec, that is also focusing on continuous improvement and business optimization in organizations. So it was mainly gap analysis and building work plans for lifting and meeting company KPIs. And then I started as a team leader of project management in Neo Games. I was 29 and I grew from within. So every few years in the company, I got promoted. So from a team leader to a department manager, a director. Then I was serving for 5 years as VP projects. And in the last 4 years since 2019, I've been the COO.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your cooperation with the investigation. It's much appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and effort, and also the investigation team. And we became very close during the last 2 years. Thank you. you.
Yeah, no questions. She has an excellent resume. Thank you for being here.
Next is Mr. Matalon. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Barak Matalon. I'm the founder of NeoGames Group.
Great.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about your background and how you became the founder of Neo Games.
Well, I was I was a Navy officer for 6 years in the Army, and afterwards, I was one of the first team that founded the first ISP, Internet Service Provider in Israel. This is where I met Moti Malul. We met back then, we were quite young, the age of 26, 27. I moved after a few years to become the VP sales of one of the largest Israeli broadcast television. This is where I met one of the Roni Aran. So as you can see, I'm gathering friends along the way. And in 2005, I decided to found NeoGames as a company, and that's what I've been doing since then. I served as a CEO for the first 8 years, and then I handed over to better people than me to take forward the company.
Thank you for that. Questions from board members?
I don't have any questions, Chair. Thank you for your cooperation and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I always respect greatly entrepreneurs like yourself. So I'm just curious, what made you come up with the concept of Neo Games? Was it you wanted to get into gaming, or was there iLottery affinity, or what prompted you to move in that direction? You could have gone in several different directions.
Well, I wanted to get into gaming, but at that time, I thought the iGaming market was quite saturated, so I had to come up with a new angle, a new idea. This is how I came up with NeoGames.
And it started with what aspect of the iLottery or the
We started at the aspect with the iLottery.
iLottery? Mhm.
Yeah, that
Great.
was the initial concept.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions?
No, I didn't have questions. Background and your rise through the company and what you've done with it is very impressive. So we appreciate that and look forward to having you as part of our industry if the Gaming Commission so approves tomorrow.
Thank you
Very
very much
good.
for your time.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Azure.
Mr. Azur is generally more comfortable in Hebrew. Can we have one of the others translate for him? That's
Yes.
helpful.
That'd be wonderful. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you.
Please, if he would tell us his name and a little bit about his background, that'd be appreciated.
My name is Eli Azur, and I'm a publisher. I began, I prefer to speak in Hebrew, it will be easier and he will translate me.
Please.
התחלתי בתור עיתונאי, את הקריירה שלי, הייתי עיתונאי ספורט.
Started as a sports journalist.
בהמשך עברתי להוצאה לאור, קניתי קבוצת עיתונים, בגלל שהייתה עלייה לישראל מרוסיה, הייתי הזדמנות.
Further on, he turned into publishing and bought some newspapers that were mainly directed to the new immigrants from Russia back at the time, early 90s.
Pull the microphone a little closer to you just so that.
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
Sorry.
good. No, I just want to be sure the transcriber gets everything you're saying. Please.
Sorry.
Please continue.
בהמשך נכנסתי לתעשיית הרדיו, קניתי עוד עיתונים.
And then he expanded into the media business. He bought more newspapers and moved into the radio stations.
To the TV, sports TV, I have 4 channels of TV sport. And now also in the internet, אני מעורב גם אני הבעלים של 2 מאתרי העיתונים היותר גדולים בישראל, ואחד מהעיתונים המשפיעים מעריב.
And then when the newspapers moved to the digital, he also bought the 2 largest websites for newspapers.
ב-2005 קניתי גם את הג'רוזלם פוסט.
In 2005, he bought also the Jerusalem Post.
ב-2005 גם הכרתי, ברק מטלון הגיע אליי, הצעה להשקיע בחברה שתתעסק בסקרצ'ינג באינטרנט.
Yeah, in 2005, he's been offered with the opportunity to invest in the business that Mr. Matalon was founded, which was back at the time designated to pull up the area of scratch cards in the digital scene.
הרגשתי שמדובר בבחור מבריק עם חזון גדול, והסכמתי להעמיד את ההשקעה.
And he felt that the individual that presented the opportunity to him was a brilliant, enthusiastic type of entrepreneur, and he agreed to invest the capital to start a business.
בהמשך, ברק ניהל את החברה באופן כמעט עצמאי, עם עזרה שלי, המעורבות שלי הייתה מינורית, וההישגים צריך לזקוף לו ולהנהלה שעשתה עבודה נהדרת.
I wasn't involved with the business at start. It was mainly run by Mr. Matalon and his crew. I felt that they were doing tremendous job, and his involvement wasn't needed given the level of success that the business knew from start. So he was to some extent behind scene since day one.
באופן כללי אני מעורב בעוד הרבה השקעות וחברות אחרות כאיש עסקים ב10 שנים האחרונות.
He's involved in many other businesses, as you know, mainly during the last 10 years as an investor.
וכאן המקום שלי להתנצל, אני רוצה להתנצל, הבנתי שלא היו שבעי רצון משיתוף הפעולה של החבר'ה שלי לגבי האינפורמציה, אז אני רוצה להתנצל, לא הייתי מודע לעוצמת הדרישות ולצרכים, וכשהבנתי נתתי הוראה לתת כל דבר שיש, אבל יש הרבה פעמים מעורבויות של שותפים, שזה חברות פרטיות שחוששות להיחשף, ומכאן היו העיכובים היו.
Yeah, he wants to take the opportunity to apologize to the board. He understands throughout the investigation process that there has been some challenges with what has been perceived, unfortunately, as lack of incorporation. Once he found out that was the impression, he gave an immediate instruction to his team to cooperate and provide any document that was back at the time required. He wants to make clear that the vast majority of the businesses that he is involved in is privately held, and as such, you know, there has been some concerns by some of his associates relative to the level of details that your investigators requested. But he made whatever needed for them to be compliant and to provide whatever document that you felt needed, and he's apologizing if the impression of his what was perceived as lack of incorporation that faced some challenges throughout the investigation, and he wants to take this opportunity to apologize to the board and the investigators team.
Thank you, Mr. Azur. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate you traveling over here. I just had a first question I wanted to ask. You're not involved in any of the day-to-day operations of Neo Games. I'm sure that's correct. Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And as you know, we're still gathering information about your application. And in the interest of time, we didn't want to slow down all of these applications. So what I would like to do is just refer your application back so that our investigators have more time to finish collecting the documents that we've requested from you. don't want to leave the record at all as that looking in any way negative upon your application, just a matter of timing, so that way we can move forward with all the applications today and put them in front of the commission tomorrow. Your application will be sent back to the investigators. Hopefully we'll get the remainder of the documents in short order. We'll put you back up on an application whenever the time's appropriate, but do appreciate you traveling over here and meeting with us and telling us about your background. And certainly you're a little bit humble of talking about the businesses. We have your background, and it's very impressive, your holdings and your investments and what you've done with many companies in your country and around the world. So we appreciate that, and we look forward to hearing more about your application when the time is appropriate, and we'll move on with everything else today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll refer back Mr. Azur just for further investigation. So we won't take that as part of the application motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Mr. Shear is Mr. Aron. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Aran. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Please tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be involved in Neo Games.
So, as you already understood, it's all friends meeting friends. So I was years ago CEO of a daily newspaper, and Mr. Azor was the head of sports department, so I knew him. And later on, I was vice president of a TV station, and Barak, Mr. Matalon, was working for me as vice president. And at a certain point, he told me that he's about the idea of gaming, and he asked me if I know anyone who can invest in the business. And I said, I have an idea, and the three of us met together, and here we are today.
Very good. Thank you for that. Good to have friends.
Yeah.
Great. I didn't have questions, for Mr. Aran. Questions from board members?
Thank you for being here today. Thank you for your presentation. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations and thank you for being here. Are you still a professor of social work at Bar University?
No, my wife is.
Oh, your wife is?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
I'm in charge of the Israeli Audience Board, the system that measures TV ratings.
I see.
I'm in
Okay.
charge of this operation.
Great. Excellent. Well, you have an excellent resume. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Gottfried is next.
Hello, hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Oded Gottfried. I'm a CTO at Neo Games. I've been with the company for over 17 years, and I'm actually one of the original founders. I met Barak. We studied together in high school, the same hometown, and this is how we met. And when he founded the company, I guess he remembered this computer nerd from school, and came to me and said, I need you to help me. And that's how we started the company at the time. I have a master's degree, BSc degree in mathematics and computer science at Tel Aviv University. I also studied and taught some philosophy in Tel Aviv University later on. As part of my responsibilities within the company is to govern the various technological aspects to ensure that the technology meets and aligned with it and the business needs for years to come. I'm also managing the cybersecurity team, and so responsible for ensuring that we're meeting best industry standards and obtaining and maintaining various security certificates such as ISO 27001, PCI DSS, and many others.
Thank you. Welcome. How big of a staff do you have in the company who deals on your technology side?
So technology within the company is split between the ongoing day-to-day tasks of developing new features and the CTO department. So I'm not managing the day-to-day software development teams, but I'm governing all the roadmap of the company, the yearly roadmap, the quarterly roadmap, and overall number of people in the technology. Raviv, maybe know from Orinat. 500.
500, very impressive, very impressive. And are you aware, I know the product right now is at the GLI laboratories. Do you know what the status of that is for your Neo Games platform that would be hopefully, you're hoping to have attached to the Caesars Liberty, William Hill Liberty platform?
So I will need to address this question to Rinat.
Mr. Shear, if you want to tell us.
It's been incorporated into the Liberty platform, so they're all being tested together. And I think they are hoping to go on field trial within the next few weeks.
Good.
And most of the testing is complete. And
so it's almost done with GLI at this point.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's done with GLI, and I think waiting for Neo Games to be licensed. We're not.
Yeah. Please, Ms. Belfort.
I'm in charge of the delivery, so part of it is the certification and working with the test lab. We've been engaged with GLI in many jurisdictions, not only for Nevada, but the process for Nevada is that in the lower environment, not yet in production, we already run all the GLI standards, including reporting. And now, assuming that we will get your consent, we will be able to start the trial period that should take between 30 to 90 days, and then we can be completely live with the operation. We are ready to do it as soon as possible.
Good. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Questions from Mr. Gottfried?
Thank you for being here. I don't have any questions.
But neither do I. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And next is Mr. Naftali. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Gabriel Naftali. I'm the Executive Vice President of Product in Neo Games. I joined Neo Games in 2010, 13 years ago. Prior to that, as a computer science graduate, I started working as a software engineer in Amdocs, which is a company that provides billing for telecom industry. After that, I worked in a company named Contel ITS doing software engineering and project management, and then moved on to Neo Games in 2010 to a role of a technical product manager. And then in Neo Games, I basically grew in my professional career, took a few roles until in end of 2016, became the VP product in Neo Games, and recently Executive Vice President of Product in Neo Games. Yeah.
Thank you for that and welcome. Approximately how many people report to you in your role?
Today, I would say approximately 30-ish.
Over multiple departments.
Yeah, I'm responsible for a few domains. So there is the player account management platform, which basically holds the player information, regulation, and everything that has to do with basically the flows of the player within the platform. The portals and apps, which is the front end. The data platform, the way that we basically consume all the data, analyze the data, and make reports, and anything that has to do with data reporting and analysis. And the draw-based games central draw system, basically a muscle certified draw gaming system, online draw game system.
Good, thank you. Questions from board members?
Thank you for being here. I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Naftali. The report completely answers all of my questions, so thank you for being here. I have no further questions.
Yes, thank you for cooperating with our agents on what we know is a thorough background investigation. The good news for all of you is once you put all this in one place, all the other jurisdictions will be super simple because you'll just go find your Nevada application and be able to show it to them. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I believe, Mr. Shear, that is all of the human being applicants we have, correct?
That's my understanding, Mr.
Good. So we got through them all. Thank you all for being here. Did you have any closing comments, Mr. Shear?
Just to reiterate what I had said at the end of the company portion of the presentation, but I'm also going to probably do something which is foolish, which is to try to name all the individual agents that participated, but I do want to thank them all. Agent Thompson, Elisa Thompson, Heather Lambert, Micah TP, Justin Schweitzer, Mark Robertson, Brad Barnard. I think I've got all of them, but if I missed anyone, I apologize. But
that's very good. Very risky of you to pull them all out.
But what we do, in addition to Supervisor Doyle and Senior Agent Crowley, we do appreciate all of their efforts on these applications. And again, we have had an opportunity to review the draft order of registration. I believe it's draft number 1, I believe dated April 26, 2023, going by memory.
Correct.
And
yeah,
it is
April
in
26.
suitable form for
very good
recommendation.
Thank you.
Regarding the order, DC Tegio just ran to his computer to update the order to reflect the removal of Mr. Azur until he makes it consistent. So there'll be a slight change in the version.
So we draft number 2.
Draft number 2 of this date.
Draft 2 dated today. Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Chief Hoffman. Are there other questions or comments from the board at this point before we move on to the application matters?
For me, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. I have no further questions.
All right, let's deal first with the 2 requests for withdrawal. That would be Mr. Laurent Tijan, who's on the board of directors, who is not a mandatory licensing position situation, and Mr. Dan Teplitsky, who is the former VP of technology and would not be in a licensing situation, obviously. So I'm just going to refer those 2 applications back to staff to give staff more time to thoroughly review the request for withdrawal. And with that, then I believe with that, Chief, that shouldn't change the order, correct?
I don't think it changes.
I don't believe it's in there.
You could just act on the withdrawals right now too, if you'd like.
Let's just refer them back.
And just to clarify the record, if I might, Mr. Teplitsky has actually resigned from the company.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. There's no reason to have his application. He's no longer with the company, but we'll send that back to staff and deal with him administratively.
Thank you.
All right, then. Do we have a motion? Or I'd be interested in hearing a motion on special agenda item number 2.
Not the withdrawal. You're going to do the withdrawal?
I just referred them back.
Bring them back.
So you don't
We
have
need
to
to
worry
address
about
it right now.
those. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to recommend approval of not, excuse me. I move to recommend approval of non-restricted agenda item number 2 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert pursuant to draft number 2 dated 4/26/23.
I think it'll be dated
Today?
Today, right.
You're going to use today's date?
Right. So it's draft 2 dated today.
That's 5/17/23.
There you go. And that's with the understanding that Mr. Azur, I just referred back to staff because we're still collecting some of his documents. Again, nothing negatively reflecting on his application, just the fact that he's a very, very successful businessman, has a lot of investments, and we're still gathering documents. So we will deal with his application separately. So part of the motion would be, I believe, that is not included in the motion. Mr. Azur, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Understood. Part of your motion?
That's it, correct?
Good. Madam Secretary, do you understand that?
Got it.
Very good. All right. Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for scheduling the meeting today.
Absolutely. We understand that a lot of people traveling internationally and trying to get everybody together is not easy. So we're happy to accommodate, and certainly makes it easier for you all to be here tomorrow for the commission meeting. So happy to do that and happy to do our part for the carbon footprint of the planet as well.
Thank you very much.
So that brings us to agenda item number 3, Madam Secretary.
Special item number 3 is the application of NeoGames SA for a continuous or delayed public offering.
Very good. Mr. Shearer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Scott Shearer, Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, appearing on behalf of the applicant NeoGames SA. This is simply a standard shelf offering, obviously, because it's a public company, requesting a 3-year shelf order to be able to issue securities, obviously subject to Regulation 16 and the required notices that are within that regulation.
Thank you, Mr. Shearer. Yes, I read the report and have read the order. And as you stated, it's a 3-year shelf offering. So I don't have any questions about that. And certainly NeoGames has the financial backing and financial spreadsheet and balance sheet to handle such a delayed offering. So we, of course, as Nevada, want to be able to accommodate that so that the company is nimble enough to have public offerings when the time is available. And that's why these agenda items are certainly suitable for a company like NeoGames. Are there questions from board members?
None by me, thank you.
Yeah, given that this is a fairly typical application from our publicly traded companies, I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Very good. Madam Secretary. I think we need a motion. Very good. We'll take a motion on agenda item number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to recommend approval for special agenda item number 3 as read into the record by Secretary Rupert with the order of registration included.
Very good. Now, Madam Secretary.
Member Assad?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chairman Hendrick?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Shearer.
Thank you again.
And thank you all for being here. Welcome to Nevada. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the commission meeting. Thank you. That brings us to our last agenda item, Madam Secretary, which is our public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters. Anyone wishing to address the board may do so at this time. Comments by each person are limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If board members ask questions of the speaker, the time needed to address those questions will not count against the speaker's 3-minute time period. If speakers have any handouts or written copies of verbal comments to provide for the record, please hand them to the enforcement agent seated to your left in Las Vegas or behind you in Carson City.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. As I stated earlier in the meeting, pursuant to state open meeting law, matters brought to the board's attention during public comment cannot be acted upon by the board, but of course, we welcome comments from the public as well as comments from the board members. At this time, if there is anyone in Carson City wishing to make public comment, please step forward. Seeing none, is there anyone here in Las Vegas wishing to make public comment? Seeing none, that closes our public comment section. And that will conclude our special meeting for today. Thank you all for attending personally or virtually. Thank you.
Thank you.